ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती राधानाथ स्वामी नामिने। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषण्यवादी पाश्चात्य करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत। हरे कृष्णा। So I'd like to welcome all the devotees. There are devotees still connecting and joining. So first of all, it's a very auspicious day today. It's Sri Kamika Ekadashi. So also a wonderful day to discuss Harikatha. Of course, all days are auspicious to discuss Harikatha, or rather, those days where we discuss Harikatha, those days become auspicious. Because auspiciousness, or the concept of auspiciousness, that is defined by people in general, and the concept of auspiciousness that spiritualists understand is actually different. The word Shubha or auspicious, for materialists, Shubha or auspicious means if there is some sort of gain which gives pleasure to the body or mind, then that means something good or wonderful has happened to me. And if there's something which happens undesirable, unpleasant to the body and the mind, then people say, oh, today's day was not good. The spiritualist, on the other hand, doesn't actually have such a shallow understanding of good or bad. Even think of it, even from a material perspective, if you think about it a little bit deeper, this definition will appear to be flawed. Even in the material world, one may be externally experiencing enjoyment, but one may not be knowing that in the process one is harming himself. And exactly opposite of that, one may be undergoing a painful situation, but actually bringing upon good upon oneself. For example, if you're suffering from some disease and you go to a doctor, the doctor gives you an injection. So at a very superficial level, one may complain and say, oh, I was feeling bad, now the doctor is making me feel more bad. Why did I come here? He's pricking me. At least earlier it was only a body ache, now he's putting a pin into my body. So rather than helping me, he's giving me more pain. So superficial analysis may reach that conclusion, but one who is intelligent will know that this pain is a temporary pain which is leading us towards a situation which will actually relieve us from a much bigger pain or a much bigger inconvenience. So, auspiciousness is therefore not to be interpreted in terms of the immediate benefit, but rather in terms of the long term goal. And the long term benefits, not goal, sorry, the long term benefits. One cannot always define it based on immediate sense enjoyment or immediate even mental enjoyment for that matter. So, a spiritualist defines auspiciousness in very simple words as that which takes him away from the root cause of his suffering. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathareshayanam. Cycle of birth and death. And even the more root of even the reason why he's in the cycle of birth and death, which is his avidya, his ignorance. And what is that ignorance? That ignorance is essentially forgetfulness of his real position as an eternal, spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Sri Krishna. That is at the root of the disease. So, no matter what is actually happening in the external circumstances, when we do or when we go through either way, an action, a situation which progresses us positively in the direction of overcoming this root cause of forgetfulness, overcoming the root cause which is causing us to continue to repeat in the cycle of birth and death. That is auspiciousness. That is Shubha. So some of us may say, oh, I have to undergo the austerities of fasting on Ekadashi. Oh, no rice, no nasi lema. I cannot eat this, I cannot eat that, I have to eat this sama rice, the Ekadashi rice. I have to eat fruits. What is this? So much pain. And some people respond by saying, oh, no, you should not give the body pain. This is not good. What kind of spirituality is this? Spirituality must give us joy. What is this kind of spirituality which is giving us pain? But the question is, do you complain the same thing when you go to the hospital and you have a tumor and the doctor operates you and cuts your skin? Isn't that also pain? But we accept it because we are able to see how that immediate pain gives us relief in the long run. So the unfortunate reality for us is we have got so much conditioned in our consciousness that happiness lies in fruitive material enjoyment. That unfortunately for us, to reverse that conditioning, it is going to be a bit painful. But amongst all the paths of reversing that painful situation, in this 9th chapter that we are discussing, Krishna is especially giving the least painful and the most enjoyable path. Of course, there will always be some inconveniences. Krishna is saying, Su Sukham Kartum Avyayam. Arjuna, I am giving this knowledge, which is not only topmost, but it is joyfully performed by those who are not envious. Unfortunately, Arjuna, those who are envious of me, what to do? They cannot adopt this simple path. Correct? If a person is very gracious, very liberal minded, very broad minded, very nice, if we want something from him, all we have to do is go to him and very nicely say, can you please help me, give me something? And he will very graciously give. But if we are envious of that person, then our ego will not allow us to go to him and ask something. How can I go and ask that? And that means I'll accept he's great. I cannot accept he's great. So I must somehow try to snatch it from somewhere else. I cannot accept subservience. That is the problem with the others. That's why they have to adopt other processes. And Krishna is so liberal. He says, okay, maybe you are at your space, at your situation in spiritual evolution where you're not ready to take the process of surrendering your ego. Never mind. You at least start first by detaching yourself from material things initially, by taking either through Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga. Actually, when you gradually get purified and slowly spiritual knowledge about the nature of the transcendental self starts dawning, slowly, you'll be able to see things better. And then maybe if you are fortunate enough to come in association with my devotees, which is the greatest fortune, then you may be able to understand actually how sweet it is to surrender to me. The surrender to the Lord is not a surrender where one is a victor and the other is the crushed and the defeated. It's not that kind of a surrender. We have seen how Krishna deals with those who surrender to him. Does Krishna crush them? Krishna becomes the servant of those who surrender to him. Do you find any material example of individuals doing that in the material world? Krishna became the driver of Arjuna. You see how he dealt with so many devotees. For Sudama, he was pressing his feet. For so many devotees, so many wonderful examples. So if you are fortunate to understand how glorious bhakti is, Sir Prabhupada would say often, people are foolish because they want to become God. Actually, you can never become God, but people think that they can become. So some people try to follow spiritual processes to become God. They think that when I become purified and attain mukti, I will become one with God and become God. Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita that is never possible. But Prabhupada says, why are you even aspiring for that? A devotee achieves something higher than becoming God. How? Because a pure devotee is such that even God becomes his servant. Of course, the devotee never thinks like that, that God is his servant. If we start thinking like that, then we are never a devotee. But the point is that is the glory of the devotee, that Krishna says, I am the servant of my devotee. And that's why I'm so careful whom I accept as my devotee, because I have to follow whatever he says then. We're talking about pure devotees here. That's why Krishna tells Arjuna, Partha pratijani name bhakta pranashati. You declare it that my devotee never perishes. Because I may sometimes even break my own promise, but my devotee's word I will never allow to go in vain. So the reason why we are discussing all this is so that we come to the appreciation of what we are discussing, of how this pure bhakti that Krishna is extolling here is what we should all keep as our goal. And also we are discussing this so that we understand that what is it that is stopping us from accepting it? Actually, nothing else than envy. So we have to give up trying to be a competitor to God by trying to become God, and understand that becoming a servant of God is a greater attainment spiritually than even becoming God. And this is not just a theoretical argument. This is the truth. How do we know this is the truth? We know this is the truth because Krishna himself is hankering to become a devotee, because he is finding that Radharani is enjoying even better than me. I am enjoying being worshipped, but it seems that those who are worshipping me, they are just experiencing such bliss in worshipping me and loving me, because I am so attractive and full of so many wonderful qualities. I want to experience the pleasure that my devotees experience, because Radharani seems to be experiencing a pleasure which is thousands of times more than what I'm experiencing. It is a very divine mystery. Prabhupada says Let us try to become the pure devotee of God under the shelter of Srimati Radharani. Because even Krishna is aspiring for that position. Of course, Krishna takes the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to fulfill that desire of his eternally. So eternally, Krishna is enjoying also being God and at the same time also being a devotee of God. And because Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is enjoying being a devotee of God so much more than being God, that he's so eager to give everybody that experience. You also experience it so wonderful. It was so nice to be a devotee of Krishna in pure love. So amazing. Take from me, I'm distributing. Take, take, take. That is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we must be convinced what we are getting is the most precious wealth. And that is why Krishna says in the 9th chapter, Rajaguhya, this is the topmost secret. Why is it such a big secret? Because this point is so difficult to understand for most people. And why is it so difficult? Because they still have envy towards the Supreme Personality of God. Arjuna did not have anasuyave. So we started this discussion by saying what is auspicious and what is not auspicious. Whatever helps us to come closer towards pure devotion is auspicious. Example, discussing Harikatha, fasting on Ekadashi, chanting the holy names, and sometimes even difficult situations in our life. They are auspicious. How can difficulties be auspicious? In the same way that Kunti Maharani prays, Krishna, give me difficulties because when I have difficulties, I remember you. So one of the good things about difficulties in life, challenges in life is they push us and prod us again and again, remind us how urgent it is to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So is that auspicious or is that not auspicious? If everything was wonderful and we are absorbed in material enjoyment, is that auspicious? Then we become in avidya, we become forgetful. Because we forget that dukkha is just around the corner. That's the nature, right? Material world is actually full of suffering. In fact, even when we think we are enjoying, actually we are suffering. That is the sad situation. But difficulties in life help us to not lose sight of truth. And that is why they can also be auspicious. And that is why scriptures say that the devotee ensures, or the devotee's vision is that he sees all situations as auspicious because he sees good situations or favorable situations as helping him to serve the Lord and negative situations as prodding him to surrender more. So one can always, in any situation, get closer and closer to the Lord. So this is the definition of auspiciousness for a devotee. So everything in our life can become auspicious if we choose to deal with it as such. And the reality is, when we start seeing things in this consciousness, even many very difficult karmic situations which may come to us because of our previous bad karma, we will be amazed to see how Krishna minimizes them to a little bit because we have already transformed our consciousness. So let us always try to develop. Of course, this consciousness is not easy to develop, but at least we can try to remind ourselves as we go through various situations. What is it that Krishna is trying to indicate to me through this situation? And actually, to be honest, the answer is only one. It may come in different forms. The details may be different, but the answer is only one. Krishna is creating both positive and negative situations so that we get closer and closer and closer to the goal of surrendering to Him. Manasa deho geho jo kichu more arpilu tua pade Nanda Kishore. Oh Lord, whatever I have, my mind, my body, my home, my wealth, everything is yours. I surrender to you. That is when that sweetness of Ananya Bhakti will come. When we give up attachment to other things and work towards such a selfless love, and that selfless love is so sweet, so deeply fulfilling, and that is what the Bhagavad is actually talking about. And that is what Gita is hinting towards here, the 9th chapter. At the end of the 8th chapter, Krishna said that those who are Ananya Bhaktas, they don't have to bother about any path in terms of when to leave their body. I take care of them. In the 9th chapter, the Lord is exclusively focusing on this Ananya Bhakti. In the 9th chapter, actually, if you observe, whatever Krishna has discussed in the 7th chapter, and I think I mentioned this last time, he's expanding on the same topics in the 9th chapter in greater detail. But he's focusing more in depth, in greater depth. So you can see things more clearly. You can understand and appreciate things more and more. It's like you're watching something from a distance. You're in a theater watching a drama. The more front the seat is, the more clearly you can see the characters and the different details. I'm talking about a drama, not a movie. A drama, the more front the seat is, the better. So Krishna is giving a deeper insight because he's now talking about the most confidential part of knowledge. 7th chapter, Krishna already gave a general description. I am supreme. These are my energies. The jivas are my tatastha shakti. Maya is my external energy. And that is the spiritual world. Parastasmatu bhavo anyo vyakta vyakta sanatana yacha sarveshu bhaveshu dashat suna virashu. And Krishna described the 4 kinds of people who surrender to him, 4 kinds who don't surrender to him. Then he described about the devatas and how those who are less intelligent and materially motivated worship the devatas. So he gave a general description of all this. Now he's going deeper. He's going to discuss all pretty much the same topics, but at a higher level of detail. And that's why in the first 3 verses, Krishna is emphasizing that he is going to go deeper. Now he's opening up the secret. It's no longer a general description. So this 9th chapter, the key is very difficult. This is Rajaguhya. 7th chapter, people can still maybe understand. Still they struggle. Still somewhat they can understand. 9th chapter is difficult to understand. Without the blessings of the Lord and the devotees, and unless we give up envy. So we are going to continue our journey on the 9th chapter from verse 4 onwards. So in the first 3 verses, the Lord has already glorified this knowledge that he's going to be described about. What did he say? To know Krishna as he is, first thing, you have to be non-envious. This knowledge is the topmost. It will give you full understanding of me and it is joyfully performed. That is why it is the best. Correct? We discussed this last time. It is actually counterintuitive. How come something which is the best? It's also so easy. It is easy only for the non-envious. It is always simple. It is easy only for the non-envious. You can perform it joyfully. So if we all are feeling, it is still so difficult for us. So the difficulty is not because the process is challenging from an external perspective. The process is challenging from an internal perspective. Right? It's like if you dislike somebody, and I come to you and say, can you please go to this particular person and tell him, that just say good morning to him and say, oh, you are looking so nice today and you are such a nice person. So nice to meet you. Just say these 2 or 3 sentences and come back. Okay? Now I want you all to imagine the person that you hate the most in your life. And let's say this is your assignment for today. And you have to be smiling all through this conversation. Go to that person. Say, smiling, good morning. How are you? So nice to see you today. You're such a wonderful person. I just love you. Just by thinking that I have to do this will be a torment. Can you imagine? I hope you can all imagine. I'm sure most of us have somebody or else like that in our life. Or something like that. So what is the problem? The assignment is extremely simple. Anybody can, practically all of us can walk to somebody. Practically all of us know how to smile. All of us know how to speak the words, isn't it? Is it simple or not simple? Simple. Nobody can dispute that. Then what is difficult? Saying it to that person is difficult. Why? Because there is some form of dvesha in the heart. Some ill feeling, some hatred, often rooted in envy. That makes it so difficult. Process is not difficult in terms of what needs to be done, but to execute it becomes difficult. Exact same challenge with your devotional service. Even devotional service mixed with the modes is not such a big difficulty. It is also a difficulty for those who are deeply envious, but those who are mixed envious, say, okay, I will go to God, but I will go and say, I want this. I'll just go to him and say, I want this. Sometimes like at a workplace, right? We don't like somebody, but we just go and say, okay, I need this. Just do the transaction. I tell you this, you give me this, and we are done. Some people approach God like that. But to go without anything and just express appreciation and glorification, which is spiritually called kirtan, is so difficult unless we actually love that person. It's actually difficult. It's difficult to glorify on the face people whom we don't like. And that is why one of the remedies, if you don't like some person, one of the remedies recommended is you should glorify him. Initially, if you cannot do on his face, at least do behind his back. And that is what we are trying to do. Even in relation to the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare. Hearing Bhagavad Katha, glorifying the Lord and his devotees, chanting his holy name, glorifying the Lord, rendering seva, offering various items. I've cooked such a wonderful feast, but actually it is first for you. You enjoy. For an envious soul, it is such a big thing. Oh, I worked hard, I earned this. Why should I first give to him? I want to enjoy. So you see how all these limbs of devotional service actually help counteract that envy. So what we are trying to say is the difficulty in the process of bhakti is not a difficulty of the technicality or the process, not that it requires a big material qualification to execute, but because of the spiritual disease of envy, the simple process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam becomes very difficult for most people. And that is why it is recommended that we reduce this envy by regularly hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord in the association of devotees. Otherwise, we will never be able to penetrate the mysteries of Krishna consciousness. I hope you understand this. I think this is important because you may think that I'm not talking about a verse, but this is the essential message. This is the essential, because you may learn all the verses, but if you fail to understand this part, you would have missed the whole point. So we have to become non-envious to be able to appreciate this message. And if you are still not non-envious, and going back to what I just described, the reason why we are not feeling that joy hearing and chanting is because there is deep-rooted envy. The reason why we are not able to surrender to the Lord is because there is deep-rooted envy. You may think, no, Prabhu, I don't have envy. I love Krishna. You may think so externally, but if you actually loved him, we would love to speak about him. We would love to glorify him. We would, without hesitation, surrender to him. So to the extent we are developing this, to that extent we are surrendering. And if we are struggling in this, that means our envy is still very strong. It's okay. We have been for millions of lifetimes in this material world, this envy. So no need to be discouraged. I'm not saying this to be discouraged. This is true for all of us to different extents. But let us at least first recognize our problem. If we don't recognize what our problem is, and we start assuming we are great devotees, then we are not going to make any tangible progress. We will remain in mixed devotion, thinking we are the best of devotees. That is the problem with mixed devotion. In mixed devotion, the devotees think that each person thinks I am the best. In pure devotion, the best devotee thinks I am the lowest. That is the beauty. So we will continue the discussion of the verses, but please keep this in mind, because this is the central point of the 9th chapter, and this continues into the 10th chapter, where it's all about giving up the false ego and developing a loving relationship with the Lord, understanding his glory. So verses 4 to 10 of this chapter, first 3 verses we've already discussed last time. So Krishna says this is the glory, and the third verse Krishna says, if you don't have faith in this knowledge that I am describing to you, then you cannot attain. As simple as that. Ashadhanana dharmasya parantapa. That if you don't have faith, then you will come back again into this material world. Aprapyamam nivartante mukti samsara vartan. You will not attain. So actually, we don't really have a choice. We have to understand him and we have to surrender. But key point is, we shouldn't be hesitant to surrender, because surrender to him is actually a state of such a deep experience of connection, such a deep experience of the rapture, of the ecstasy of love. Because when we surrender to the Lord, Krishna also reciprocally connects with us. This is a mutual relationship. It is not a person who's crushed. When Bali Maharaj and Vaman Dev's episode, when Bali Maharaj surrendered to Vamana, to test him, Vamana initially took a position as if he was going to crush Bali. So sometimes to us it appears as if God is going to crush us sometimes. It becomes, oh Krishna, I did so much for you, why you are crushing me? How many of you felt like that? Raise your hands ever in your life. Raise your hands virtually. Anybody has ever felt, God, you're crushing me, I'm doing. Divya Gaurangi Mataji, Haribo, thank you for joining us. So Mataji is acknowledging. So only one. So only myself and Divya Gaurangi Mataji feel like that. Okay. Sometimes we feel Krishna is crushing us. So if you're not feeling like this, again, I'm not judging all of you, but I'm just saying, if you're not feeling like this, then probably very likely we are actually already in such deep illusion that we don't know what is going on. Because a person who is sincere and genuine sadhaka, he will be put through a lot of test and difficult situations. Yes, Suyesh Prabhu. Hari. Suyesh Prabhu has also raised his hands. There are 3 of us. So the point is, sometimes we feel like this, that we are being crushed. But you know what is the beauty? Every time we go through that situation and we respond positively to that apparently being crushed, he will always be so pleasantly surprised that Krishna will suddenly appear after that situation and give us a sweet embrace in such a way that we will be melted. And Krishna will say, I was just having some fun. I'm so happy you responded so positively. He'll give a loving embrace. Of course, I'm saying about in spirit. We are not yet that advanced that Krishna will physically come and, but we will feel that embrace of Krishna. You see, Bali Maharaj, when Lord Vishnu came and he asked for the 3 steps, it was a very difficult situation. It's like your whole life's achievement in a moment is taken away from you. And you know it is going to be taken. Your Guru has warned you. This is Vishnu. Shukracharya said he is going to take away everything. And Bali had to make a choice to give or not to give. It's not an easy situation. Of course, it's very easy to sit here philosophically and say, yes, yes, if I was there, then I would have said yes. You should be careful before saying some things like that. Otherwise, Krishna will say, oh, okay, good, good. Then I will also arrange some situation like that for you. So you can also show to the world like Bali Maharaj. How set the examples. Of course, I hope many of us are, but if you are not, it's not an easy thing. And the Lord actually put his feet, the 3rd step on Bali Maharaj's head, and he took away everything from him. It appeared to him and the whole world and Shukracharya that Bali is finished. And not only that, after that, the Lord arranged for Bali Maharaj to be tied like an ordinary prisoner. Can you imagine how much, from an external perspective, he felt crushed? And literally he was crushed because the Lord's foot was on his head. But he so pleased the Lord by his full Sharanagati, because Bali Maharaj's example is that of full surrender. He so pleased the Lord with his Sharanagati that the Lord granted him the whole, as a gift, the whole Sutala Loka to rule over as the king for practically the remaining period of the cycle. And not just that, the Lord said, I'm so pleased with him personally. Lord Vaman is saying, I will become your doorkeeper, your watchman. So what God gave him in return? God gave him a much more of opulent kingdom. And God said, I will be standing personally outside your door all the time to protect you personally. And even up to this day, if any one of you is wondering, where is Lord Vamana? Is there at the entrance of Sutala Loka. Whenever a flight opens to Sutala Loka, you can go there and you can find. So there was a very interesting episode of Ravana going to Sutala Loka. Anyway, we don't have time to discuss that. Meet Bali Maharaj and his interesting encounter with Lord Vamana. So the point is that why I'm mentioning this past time is how even that crushing was actually followed by such a sweet embrace by the Lord. Because ultimately, this surrender is not about exploitation. Krishna became the servant of Bali Maharaj. Why? Because Bali Maharaj became his servant. This is the point I'm trying to make. Arjuna became Krishna's servant and Krishna became his driver. Of course, the devotee never wants God to become like that. Yeah, please. This is not what we are trying to say, that we want God to become a servant. The point that we are trying to make is we always want to become servants of the Lord. But the point is we have to not misunderstand that surrendering to the Lord is like a surrender or a defeat in the material sense in this material world. Oh, it is such a sweet exchange of love. It is so sweet. It is so beautiful. It is such a relishable experience. And this is what an envious soul cannot appreciate. So when we start understanding this point and appreciating the goal of pure devotional service, we must understand that that is when Shraddha or true spiritual faith is beginning to awaken in our heart. Shraddha Shabde Vishwasa Kahe Sudruda Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. That Shraddha means the firm faith where one is convinced, if I simply surrender to Krishna, everything will be perfect. That is everything. I don't need to do anything else. So that is what we are all working towards. And unless we get that conviction, this 9th chapter is going to be very difficult to understand. We may think we have understood, but we will not understand. Okay, so I leave you with these thoughts. Leave you meaning, not that I'm ending the class, but I'm leaving this part of the conversation so that you can ruminate on this. Yeah. So it is about giving up envy, and it is about experiencing the joy of sweet surrender to the Lord, where one develops a very sweet relationship. And Ananya Bhakti is the process to do that. And when we surrender to the Lord without any material motivation, that opens up the door of that relationship. If one is approaching the Lord with bhakti which is mixed with the modes, Tamogun, Rajogun, Sattvagun, and we have been discussing this in our Bhagavatam classes, then that experience is going to be difficult. Then we cannot experience the sweetness of devotion. And we'll keep wondering, what is this exaggeration that scriptures talk about? What is this so sweet, so wonderful, so beautiful? All this will remain very abstract concepts to us. Because these things cannot be understood intellectually. You have to taste them to be able to experience. Okay, so first 3 verses about that, and Krishna concludes the first 3 by saying, faithless person cannot attain him. Then verses from 4 to 10, Krishna is explaining again in a little bit more depth to Arjuna his opulences in terms of his relationship with the material world. Krishna already had explained a bit of this in the beginning of the 7th chapter, but he's now explaining it in a slightly different way so that we are very clear what is his relationship. So let's go through those verses. Just give me a few seconds. So Krishna starts in 9.4 by saying, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshu avastitaha. Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjuna, understand that I am pervading all this material world in my unmanifested form. Unmanifested means I am there, but you can't see me. Everything is in me. Matsthani sarva bhutani. Aham teshu avastita, but I am not in them. Now you may remember, if you have been attentive in the previous classes, that I have been quoting this verse n number of times already. And I have quoted this again and again. And in fact, Krishna has in various places mentioned in Gita, Bhagavatam and other places that this is what you need to understand me. You have to come to this understanding. How I am in everything, everything is in me, but still I have my own independent existence beyond this material manifestation. So Krishna this is what he's trying to say. In my unmanifested form. So we will discuss verses 4, we will go through the translation of 4, 5 and 6, and then we'll discuss them together, because these 3, or maybe we can go to, let's discuss 4, 5, 6 together. So I will recite 5 and then go to 6 as well. So in 9.5, Krishna says, he's continuing the same idea. He's saying, Nachamatstani bhutani paschame yogam aishwaram bhuta bhrinna cha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. In the previous verse, the Lord said, everything rests in me. Now Krishna starts in this verse by saying, yet everything does not rest in me. So just now in the previous verse he says, Matstani sarva bhutani. And now here he is saying, Nacha matstani bhutani paschame mo yogam ishvara. It's like saying, yeah, something is inside me, then also saying something is not inside me. So then one, please make up your mind. Is it inside or is it not there? So it may seem contradictory, but actually Krishna is not contradicting, because both are simultaneously true. And how is what we will discuss. Let's go through the translation first. Yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Arjuna, this is my mystic opulence. That everything is in me and everything is not in me. How it is in me, also you have to understand. How it is not in me, also you have to understand. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, Arjun, and although I am everywhere, it is true, I am everywhere, still I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, because I am the source of this manifestation. It comes from me, I am in it. I am maintaining my own independent, transcendental identity. I do not become less when the world comes out from me. I do not become the world. The world comes from me and I pervade the world. The world depends on me, rests on me. It is different from me. Paschame yogam aishwaram. Please understand this mystic opulence. Yogam aishwaram of mind. And then Krishna gives a beautiful example, the next verse. He says, Arjuna, I'll try to give an example so that you can try to understand. Of course, no material example can fully describe a spiritual truth. Yes, because transcendental matters are transcendental. Material matters, we can only try to give, because we have only experience of them. We have to give material examples, but they may not be 100%. But Krishna is trying to give the closest possible understanding. Krishna says, Yatha kasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tatha sarvani bhutani matsthani iti upadharaya. Just as the wind, the mighty wind, which is blowing everywhere, is resting within the sky, all living beings rest in me. Very interesting thing. So sky here means just think of it as space. So everything, here he's talking about the wind which is moving here, there, is all moving within space, isn't it? In the same way, everything that is manifest, everything that is created is within me, just like the wind is within space. In the same way, all created beings are within me. So what exactly Krishna is trying to say? Anyone wants to try to explain this? Just one or two sentences. What is Krishna trying to say by giving this example of wind within the sky? What is the analogy? Anyone? Yes, Sudhir Sundar Prabhu.
I'm not sure, Prabhu, but I think Krishna is trying to say that he is beyond the material energy, although the material energy comes from him. I mean, I don't think so. That's the right thing. Something like that, bro.
Okay. Okay, thank you, bro. So what he's actually trying to say is, see, the wind is within the space. So the wind, the space is like a container within which the wind flows. Correct? Yeah, the wind needs space. But is the wind actually touching the space? Is it actually in contact with the space? It is within the space, but the space exists independently. Similarly, everything is within the Lord, dependent on Him. Can the wind exist without the space? No. Space is needed for the wind, isn't it? Yes. In this material world, you say, this thing, that thing, that thing. And what is space? What is empty space? Is empty space nothing? We discussed this some time ago also. Is empty space nothing? No, empty space is something. And empty space is the most valuable thing because we need that container within other things can be. Because that is the basis within which other things can exist. Is it not? Yes. When we buy a house, what are we actually buying? Are we buying bricks? Are we buying tiles? Are we buying cement? What do we buy when we buy a house?
The space in the house.
Very good. Yes, we are actually buying space. We are buying a space within which we can stay. And that space is just being delineated by bricks and walls. We're actually buying space so that we can be within that space and say, this is my space. So even for us to exist, we need space. We cannot exist independent of space. So is space nothing? No, space is something. It is the container of everything else. So everything rests. But at the same time, you cannot quite grab space. Space is so subtle. Everything is within it, but nothing quite touches it. But everything is inside. Just such a sweet example. So the Lord is giving a similar example, saying, yes, I'm something like that. Arjun, everything is within me because without me, nothing can exist. Everything is coming from me. But I'm still separate, just like space continues to exist, whether the wind exists or the wind doesn't exist. So how, let us try to understand these 2 points, which are important to understand. How does Krishna exist? When Krishna is saying that everything exists within me, what is he actually trying to say? And when he's saying I am within it, what is he trying to say? And I am separate, what is he trying to say? We've discussed this a few times, but just a quick recap. So in the first verse 9.4, when Krishna is saying Matsthani Sarvabhutani, Krishna is essentially saying everything is dependent on me. It is resting on me. I am the very basis. Why? Because the material and spiritual energies are all coming from me. It is resting on me. Aham sarvasya prabho. And he has also said, I am like the thread on which all the worlds are resting. And I am within everything also. How am I within everything? Krishna is there either in his representation form as the Paramatma within everything, or he's also within everything diffused as his own energy. Because his energies, both material and spiritual, are also his own extension. They are him, but not him. So he's there in that energy because it is very much a part of him, but it is still not him. The Paramatma is Krishna. Because the Paramatma is very much a part of Krishna. Paramatma is not Krishna either. Because Paramatma is an aspect of Krishna. So everything is resting within him. He is there. And through the Paramatma, Krishna is doing everything. So he is there. Through the form of his material and spiritual energies, Krishna is present everywhere, knows everything. Yet Krishna says, I, as the original Supreme Person, undiminished after creation, still exist independent of material existence separately in my own transcendental form, without being impacted in any way whatsoever by this continuous creation and dissolution of the material world. Is this very difficult to understand? Or is it intelligible? I hope it is not very difficult to understand. If you are still struggling to get the concept, you can raise it in the question answers. Yeah. So there's a beautiful verse in the Ishopanishad, which also conveys a very similar idea, where it starts by saying, Om Purnam Adaha Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. The supreme absolute truth is the complete whole, and from him other complete wholes emanate. What are the other complete wholes? This whole material manifestation is a complete whole. Each of us is like a complete unit. So many complete units come from the supreme absolute truth. But Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Even though so many complete wholes emanate from the complete whole, the original complete whole continues to remain complete. It doesn't get diminished. This is the tattva that needs to be understood. This is what Krishna is trying to do. So many things come, and because I'm complete whole, everything is within me and resting on me. But at the same time, I am that independent, complete truth, undiminished, even though unlimited complete wholes come from. Pashyame yogam aishwaryam. This is my mystic opulence. Why is it so mystic? It's so mystic because even though it comes out from him, he never gets diminished. He is inside it. It rests on him, but he is still independent. Okay, I hope this much is clear. I'll not belabor this point anymore. And then we'll just take another 3-4 minutes. We'll cover up to verse 10, at least up to 9. Let's see. Up to 10, I think we can cover. Yeah. So then Krishna goes on, having said this, he's explaining about this material world that he has just mentioned that comes from him and is dependent on him. Says that how this material world continues to go through repeated creation and destruction. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani kalpadau visrujamyaham. At the beginning of the kalpa, I create them. At the end of the kalpa, they are destroyed. Again and again, there is destruction, then again creation. Destruction, again creation. By my potency, I do this, but I remain unaffected. This dissolution and creation, Krishna is talking about at the end of the life of Brahma after his 100 years. Prakritim swam avashtabhya visrujami punah punah utagramam imam kritsnam avasham prakriter vashat. This whole material manifestation, repeated creation and dissolution is all working under my direction. By my will, it is manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So Krishna is saying that I am directing all this. So I am also present in this world in the form of my will, because whatever is happening in this world is my will, my law, and that will is manifested as law. There's the law of karma, whether it is the laws of nature, whatever laws in this material world are actually nothing but an implementation of Krishna's will. And that is also Krishna's presence, isn't it? Correct? Just like a owner of a factory. Even though he may not be in the factory, he is still present in the factory. How is he present in the factory? Because from his energies, from his money, the factory was made. That is all belonging to him. The persons hired are also on his pay. Yeah. And whatever is being done in the factory is also his will. Is all manifestation of his energies and his directions. Okay, again, not a perfect example, but in the material world, we cannot give a 100% example for spiritual truths. But hopefully that will give us some idea. And Krishna then says in 9.9 and 9.9, Krishna tries to explain how even though this continuous creation and destruction is happening under his directions, actually he remains detached. And for him, he is not affected in a material way by this creation and destruction like any ordinary living entity would be, because he has nothing to enjoy or gain from that repeated creation and destruction. Krishna creates and destroys. He has made this arrangement, give an opportunity for rebellious souls like us, an opportunity to rectify ourselves. Krishna has nothing to gain from this material manifestation. He has no material desire. Krishna has already explained this in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita also. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phale spreha. He who knows this about me is never affected by karma. That I have nothing to achieve in this material world. So the same thing he is repeating here. He's saying, Nachamam tani karmani nibadnanti dhananjaya udasina vadasinam asaktam teshu karmasu. All this work of repeated creation and destruction does not bind me, because binding comes through attachment and material desire. I don't have that. So even though this is happening, I remain detached, as though seated neutral. Why am I neutral? Because I am simply giving a facility to living entities to try to enjoy. I have nothing to gain. But I continue to be the director because I'm responsible for it. Maya Dyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam Etunanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. This material energy works under my directions. Krishna says, I'm the director. The managers are the devatas. But I'm the director, correct? In a company, many managers, senior managers report to the director. So there are many so-called Ishwaras, various devatas. And then there's a Maheshwara, Lord Shiva. And there's the Parameshwara, the supreme director, who's Krishna. Maya Dyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam. The movable and non-movable living entities, they are created and managed by this material manifestation which works under my directions. The execution is done by the material energy, the plan, the intention, the directions come from me. But the management of the affairs is managed by the energy. And within that energy, so many devatas may be there, so many laws may be there, so many arrangements may be there. But I am detached. I have just created this. And within that realm, repeated creation and destructions will happen. So Krishna here establishes that he's the source, he's the director, but he's still detached. So we are going to take a pause here. From the next section onwards, 11 onwards, Krishna goes into the topic of different kinds of worshippers of him, which is similar to what he discussed in the 7th chapter about Chaturvida Bhajante Mam, the 4 kinds of worshippers and the 4 kinds of Dushkrutinaha. Something similar Krishna tries to explain in a slightly different words at a slightly deeper level. So that will be an interesting discussion, verses 11 to 25. So we will try to aim to cover 11 to 25 in the next session. So today we have covered from verses 4 to 10, which is focused on Krishna's relationship with this material world and how everything comes from him and how he is inside it but still aloof, and still everything is working under his direction, and still he remains detached. Okay, thank you very much. Santara Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Sorry, we went a few minutes overboard. If there is any questions or comments, then I can take them. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Sudhir Prabhu.
Prabhu, I just want to make a point. I'm not sure whether my understanding is right or no. So it is mentioned that when a non-devotee goes through all these problems in life and all, it is due to his kind of karma and so on. While a devotee, when he kind of undergoes all these problems, it is more for his what purification. And then while a pure devotee go to all this, it's more for their glorification. Is it right, Prabhu?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. Actually, all karma is for purification. The problem between the materialistic person and the spiritual, or the difference between the materialistic person and the spiritual person, is that the materialistic person just sees it as a difficulty and doesn't actually learn the lesson that is intended from it. The devotee not only learns the material lesson from it, but also sees the challenge as an impetus to surrender to Krishna. And that is the difference. So karmic reactions come to the materialists, karmic reactions come to the sadhakas and spiritualists based on their past karma. So both of them may have performed a similar misdeed possibly in the past, and they may get similar reactions and situations in their respective lives. But whether one gets purified by that reaction or not is subject to how we deal with that reaction, how we relate to it. Correct? Yeah. So that's why a materialist, he just goes through it, but he's not actually learning the right lessons, because until we learn all the lessons and come to a perfect state of spiritual consciousness, we are not going to get out from this material world. So materialists, they go through situations, but they forget to learn the deeper lesson within it. But because devotees are always asking the question and trying to understand, oh Lord, I want to understand, what is it that you are trying to teach me through this? And that is the question we should try to ask and pray, that, oh Lord, if I'm going through this situation, what is it that you want me to learn? Of course, the ultimate answer is always surrender to Krishna more. But maybe within that surrendering, there may be much more specific lessons to learn. The specific lessons could be always be truthful. Why you have been deceiving others and talking lies? Sometimes we just get into the habit of telling lies. Sometimes we have professions where we are so used to. This is the problem I have sometimes observed with those who are, and again, I'm not being judgmental to all, but I'm just sharing an observation. Sometimes people who are in a sales job, they're so used to just talking whatever is convenient at that point in time just to get some objective achieved, that they carry that same tendency to their personal relationships. They carry the same tendency to their spiritual relationships. They do not even hesitate to lie to their spiritual masters, spiritual teachers, other senior. It just becomes so habitual for them to lie. So we have to be very careful. I'm just giving one example, right? Yeah. So if we are not careful, then until we learn those lessons, whether it be truthfulness, whether it be compassion, whether it be sacrifice, whether it be pridelessness, amanitvam, adambitvam, so many lessons. Ultimately, it's about developing divine character. But the materialist fails to develop a divine character because it just goes to the pain of the reaction, but he responds with a grudge. Oh, he did like this to me. He's not trying to learn the deeper lesson. Maybe I behave like this. Maybe, I'm getting this so that I should understand that I should not become like this. Rather than trying to learn that lesson, they simply go through the suffering and become frustrated. And rather than responding positively, they respond by again doing the same thing to the other person. He did this to me, I will do this to him now. So they go on perpetuating this. So that's the difference. Yeah, but in general, what you said is true. Yes. And for the pure devotees, they are put into all these situations just to glorify them, to give an example to us, like Bali Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, of how pure devotees respond in extremely challenging times. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Sudhir Sundar
another
Prabhu.
Astin Prabhu, like if you say what is that? Ananya Bhakti, is it the platform of prema, or is it or because if you see let's say what is the bhakti, there are nine different stages and so if you say it's what is that Ananya Bhakti, does it come in the category of Baba or Prema, Prabhu?
No, Ananya Bhakti is basically pure Bhakti. Pure Bhakti begins from the sadhana level, goes all the way up to Prema. So
Okay,
Ananya
Prabhu.
Bhakti, yeah. So Ananya Bhakti, you can just think of it as pure devotion. So pure devotion in simple word means at least consciously we are endeavoring not for any benefit from Krishna, but just to love him and serve him. We may have conditioning in our initial stages. We may struggle to achieve that ideal, but consciously that is the ideal that we are working towards. So, so at least in that way, yeah. Of course, the perfection of Ananya Bhakti is the stage of Prema.
Okay, Prabhu. Thanks, Prabhu.
Yeah, Ananya means no other desire or no other interest other than the Lord, which is same as pure Bhakti, which is transcendental Bhakti, which is neither mixed with Tamogun, Rajogun or Sattvagun, but exclusive for the pleasure of the Lord. So we can immediately become Ananya if we keep that as the real goal of our life. And in our Bhakti, we approach the Lord exclusively for that purpose. Even though at this moment we may not have become free from all our material desires. Still, it's like a mango, right? We have discussed this. We can be a mango. We may not be a ripe mango yet. Maybe a raw mango. That's why we may still be sour or maybe even bitter, but at least we are a mango. Then eventually we'll become ripe. Then we become ripe, and it will become very sweet. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Thanks.
Okay. So thank you. We had a nice discussion on this beautiful Tithi of Ekadashi. So thank you all very much. And yeah, stay safe. And I will see you all on Saturday, where we'll continue our discussion of the Srimad Bhagavad. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Prabhu.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki.
Jai.
Jai. Prabhupada ki. Thank you.
Jai.
Haribo. Rita ji, Hare Krishna. Shalini ji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Haribo. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sridhar ji and family. Sneha ji. Yes, Anand Sundari Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Haribol, Mihira and Shalini ji.
Hare Krishna and thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Archana Leela ji and family. Meenal ji, thank you very much. Hope you are feeling better.
Yes, Prabhuji. Much better.
Much better, yes. So Krishna is pushing you to surrender.
Like, I'm trying.
Yes, we have to keep trying. But Krishna will also keep trying until we learn the lesson. That is the thing. So Krishna doesn't give up. So that is why it's always in our interest to learn the lesson sooner. Because if we don't learn, we have to repeat. It's like an exam, right? Yeah. And I'm not just talking about you, I'm just saying in general. It's true for all of us. Yeah, whatever test we all go through, in any shape or form. Sometimes, try to avoid it. But the problem is we don't avoid, meaning avoid learning the lesson. But if we avoid learning the lesson and we just try to push it away, the problem is the test will just repeat. Maybe on some other day in another shape or form, but it's not going to go away.
True.
So we have to respond to life's challenges in a positive way, learn, develop our consciousness positively, and then go ahead. And usually, most people remain in the material world because they never learn their lessons. They just go through suffering again and again. Anyway, so let's pray to the Lord. We all learn our lessons and move ahead. Thank you all. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Haribol.
Prabhuji.